It must be deja vu or complete irony, but Elias Pettersson is our best prospect again. And no, not that one. We're talking about the popular one, okay? I think in broadcasting school they call that recency bias. Speaking of which, let's recap the weekend, the prospect showcase, and the whole Tom Willander, Jonathan Lecker-Mackey thing on today's episode of LOC.
The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also a Canucks reporter for Daily Hive, Vancouver. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Kyle Bowen. We'll find out if Kyle watched the prospect showcase in a minute or two, but I think one of the one main takeaways from the prospect showcase we want to get into is the Canucks' best prospect isn't who you think it is. We've been talking about Jonathan Lecker-Mackey, Tom Willander, Braden Coots, and we'll get to those guys, but right now, we want to make the case that the best prospect the Vancouver Canucks have is Elias Pettersson. And Kyle, for me, he might not be the prospect with the highest ceiling, but when I'm looking at these Canucks prospects, both in this tournament and what they've done in 2025 so far, tell me I'm wrong. Like, Elias Pettersson is currently the best prospect that the Vancouver Canucks have.
And yeah, maybe he doesn't have the highest ceiling, but I feel like he has the intangibles to be the most critical player based on the physicality, based on him being a piece of shit, based on him always playing hard. Manny Malhotra in that article with Thomas Drance said that he only plays on one speed. So he's the type of guy that brings the team to the fight. So we saw him play, 28 games last year, 30 games last year. He looked good in most of those games. And keep in mind, this is after he struggled in training camp last year. But right away, he got it. Right away, he adjusted. Right away, he adapted. I think he, held himself accountable and wanted the most out of himself. And boom, bam, he turned himself into an NHL player. And now he looks above and beyond the rest of his peer group. Not only in this prospect group, but, when he's going up against other quote-unquote prospects on other teams. Like, he looks like an NHL'er. And Trevor, I do want to talk about some of the offense that he may bring, because you compared him to Alex Edler, and I do like that. But man, oh man, the physicality, man, it's giving me peak Nikita Zadorov, but also based on his skating, based on again his smarts, it's giving me like Braden McNabb. Who's the other guy? Who's the guy on? No, it's Josh Manson. Is that?
Yeah.
The guy in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, based on what else he brings to the table outside of what the Canucks already have, we're talking about such an important player for the Vancouver Canucks.
100%. And I get a lot of hype in this tournament around, Coots, Lecker-Mackey, and Willander, right? And of course, Willander, I think, flashed his speed over the weekend in this prospect showcase, even if he did get burned on one goal in the first game. Braden Coots, we barely got to know him in this tournament. He left after a couple of periods. And Jonathan Lecker-Mackey scored a goal, but wasn't really as dominating as you would have hoped for a guy with his kind of ceiling. But Elias Pettersson, yeah, we talk about, he may not have the highest ceiling. Kyle, maybe Elias Pettersson's ceiling is higher than we think.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about this, late last season when he was, putting in a really damn impressive performance for a rookie, right? Closing guys off, throwing thunderous hits, not much getting past him. I think there was one stat where, looking at last season and kind of some of the metrics, it was he had the best expected goals for percentage on the team behind Quinn Hughes, and of course he had some sheltered minutes in there as well. But I think there's just so much to give on the defensive side of the game for Elias Pettersson. He's already a man amongst boys, especially in a tournament like this. And I think about the offense a bit too. Like, you had that great play for Nick Poisson's goal on the first in the first game of the prospect showcase there. But even last season, Kyle, I mean, the stat line, 1 goal, 3 points, 28 games doesn't stand out, but the Canucks shot 3% when he was on the ice. And,
Yo,
you know, even if it's, you know, they shoot 10%, like an average amount when he's on the ice, and he gets points on half of those. Like, you're talking about a guy who maybe would have had 6 points in 28 games. And all of a sudden, maybe you're looking at a guy who, again, as a 20-year-old, is maybe somewhere around like a 20-point pace per 82 games. So, and that's just him scratching the surface right now. So, you know, we bring out Alex Edler, and I don't know if that comparison offensively is fair because Alex Edler was a pretty good offensive player, especially during his peak. But I think with Elias Pettersson, DPD, you know, I think he's got a higher ceiling than we're giving him credit for.
yeah, and even last year, you know, he wasn't afraid to jump into the play. And again, when you look at the games, like from like game 77 to game 82, I think it's easy for a lot of players to like just be full of freedom because the games mean nothing. And you know, I think he scored one of his his only goal. Like who was it against? I don't want to say Colorado. Why am I forgetting? Dallas? No. Anyways, meaningless game. They own that game, and he scores a beautiful goal. And you know, prior to him jumping up in the play and doing all that, you know, when the games did matter, this guy wasn't afraid to take slap shots from the point. Like not playing like a rookie, taking initiative. He wants to be an impact player, shift in and shift out. And Trevor, just to go back to this weekend, because now I'm looking at guys like this and seeing how they came off the break, but ultimately came off of, and in the case with the DPD, like they're coming off like some NHL experience. Like, did it get to his head? Can he compound what he did last year? And all signs are showing that he can. And it's literally because he's a damn good hockey player. Like, I know we may be getting ahead of ourselves, but keep in mind, based on what he did last year, based on what he's showing this year already, him being in a system where Hronek's here, DPD's here, Quinn Hughes is here, and Adam Foote is here, man, oh man, like we may be in for exactly what we've been praying for, and that's, you know, an Elias Pettersson providing positive impact on this team. Like, this is a bonus. This is a luxury. This might be a diamond in the rough. Well, what does that even mean? Diamond in the rough? What does that even mean? I've never used that before.
That's a great question, Kyle. Diamond in the rough. It's
I-
diamonds are reportedly hard to find. Maybe that's what it has to do.
That's
But
what I'm trying to say. This got the third round pick from what, 3 years ago? And why is he so good, Trevor?
dude, he's a man. You know, at 20 years old, he's more of a man than me. He's triple the man than I am, and I'm 32 years old. Okay, I mean, look, I think again one of my biggest takeaways from the weekend was Elias Pettersson and Vilmer Ulrichsen as well. Both of those beauties, those big boys, they look like men amongst boys in this tournament, right? And credit to Vilmer Ulrichsen, who didn't just look like a passenger on the line with Coots and Lekkerimäki, or later in the tournament, Patterson and Lekkerimäki. He was physically imposing out there at times as well and scored a sick goal for the Canucks in the first game. Ulrichsen will be an interesting player to watch this season, but in terms of DPD, just so smooth out there, closes off angles. And there was a quote from Manny Malhotra too about, like, you know, what's he like in practice? And basically the quote was, you know, he's just as physical as he is in regular NHL games, right? Like, there is no different level to him. Like, he always gives it at all, whether it's, you know, a prospect showcase practice or it's playing in the NHL. Yeah. And I think those are the kind of players you want on your hockey team too, Kyle. You know, veterans, you know, at some point they'll learn to tone it down, but, you know, this is a young guy with lots of energy, you know, lots of juice. And yeah, I think his ceiling going up, let's call it that.
Yeah.
It changes options for the Vancouver Canucks on the back end as well, right? Like, we're saying Hughes and Hronek, no chance of them getting split up, right? But what if there is because of DPD? Am I going a bit too far here? But hear me out for a second. You know, DPD often played on the right side last season. There's a good chance he plays on the right side this season as well, depending on what they want to do with Derek Forbort. Is there a world where DPD could maybe play some minutes with Quinn Hughes, Kyle?
Wow. Maybe. But Trevor, like, you're the fancy stats guy. Like, isn't the more obvious, more realistic question, like, is DPD going to get a ton of minutes with Filip Hronek? You know what I'm saying? Like, they played together at some points last training camp. There may be some chemistry there. Do you move Myers up with Quinn Hughes? I don't really like that, to be honest. I don't want Tyler Myers playing more minutes, but some people, we had a comment last week when we did the Filip Hronek Slurp Fest, saying that, Tyler Myers actually plays better with Quinn Hughes than Philip Roenick does based on these stats, right? Boom, bam. I don't know about all that, but I think overall, Trevor, you're trying to ask like a bigger question. Like, look at Alex Edler year 2. Like, are we actually going to get that? Is that feasible? Is that possible within that decor? But because based on how stacked it is, but is DPD going to be so important to this version of the Vancouver Canucks? I'm talking about 2024. What year is it right now? 2025 or 2024? 2025, 2026. Okay, no, for real. I'm already getting ahead of myself, but I feel like based on his physicality, based on his bravado, I think this team needs guys like that. This team needs guys that gets them into the fight, lays the boom. That's as hockey as it gets, right? Like, he lays the boom. There's a scrum. The boys in blue and green or black, red, and yellow, they're all coming together to get in the scrum. No, like, those things build morale. And, we lost JT Miller. We lost the physical piece. But, man, oh, man, there's a world, and I hate to bring Zadorov up all the time, but there's a world where Elias Pettersson is that dog, like the most feared Vancouver Canuck. And, again, I know we're ripping off Thomas Drance right now. Well, I am, based on the article I read. I'm sorry, Thomas Drance, but it's not like you share a Netflix password with somebody, right? Come on. It's the truth. When he hit, he's claiming that, when he hits people, it hurts. It hurts. It's imposing. And Trevor, you touched on it a bit based on the offense that he brought during the prospect tournament, but Thomas Drance said there might be more value in DPD's 5-on-5 play versus his defensive 5-on-5 play. And maybe value is a loose term, or maybe what he was trying to say is, like, don't sleep on that. Like, based on all the positive gain you want to see from the Vancouver Canucks, maybe a lot of the surprise or what takes us over the top or has us be way better than we think we are is having another guy be able to get 30 points from the blue line. Because this guy, like, he's not Derek Forbort. He's a good skater. He has a good first pass. And look at the film last year again. The guy shoots the puck a lot.
Yeah, 100%. And I was kind of just looking at his game log, and he didn't shoot the puck a ton last season. By the way, that first goal, how could we forget, Kyle? A Sunday afternoon game against the Anaheim Ducks on home ice.
There you go. The game didn't matter. It was like the first game where we got eliminated from playoff contention. I remember it was like 5-0 in the first or something, right? Like 4-0 in the first.
Yeah. And really, the game before, we lost 5-0 to the Kraken on home ice, and it really felt like the playoff dreams were dead after that one. They Canucks roar back with a 6-2 win over the Anaheim Ducks, who did not know how to play defense at the time. But yeah, I do think there is more offensive pop to DPD's game. I think that's one of the main takeaways heading into this season. We'll see where he gets slotted in the depth chart, but man, oh man, as of right now, and there's recency bias here for sure. I'm not projecting forward. I'm not necessarily looking at ceiling, but right now, right here and now, Elias Pettersson is the best prospect in the Vancouver Canucks organizations. Mm-hmm. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know. Do you think Kyle and I are crazy, or do you also believe that DPD is the best prospect this team has? Coming up on the other side, let's get to maybe some less jaw-dropping performances with Tom Willander, Jonathan Lekermacki, and the other Canucks top prospects. That's coming up on the other side here on Locked On Canucks. Before we get back to the show, let's shout out our friends over at Indeed. Hey, you just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? You know the answer. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites, because Indeed Sponsored Jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. Man, oh man, when Kyle Bowen left me back in April, I had to go on Indeed to find the amazing Deepak Roberts III. I do wonder how that guy's doing now. And shout out to our listeners that tuned in back in April. If you missed that, you can listen to some hilarious clips from the end of the Canucks season when Kyle left me and I had to bring on Deepak Roberts III. I wouldn't have found Deepak Roberts III without Indeed, okay? And now you can also find your next employee on Indeed, or employer. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this very podcast, Locked On Canucks. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed, It's all you need, baby.
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks and loving the D. Petey. That's what we're doing. Speaking of which, let's get to the comments. I really like this one, okay? This one's making me think. Calder Kid Petey. Sometimes we have beef with this guy on the program because we're harsh on Elias Pettersson. But, we're not harsh on Elias Pettersson. Maybe the Petey in his name is, it stands for the DPD. And he's saying that he hopes he learns more from Adam Foote, right? And couldn't that be a comp? I mean, I know Adam Foote's like one of the best defensive number 2 defensemen of his generation, and obviously, like, I doubt DPD gets there, but that's a good that's a good comp. Like, clear out the front of the net, be hard to play against, be annoying, right, and make a good first pass. And did I say be physical? Yeah, I did say be physical. Just keep doing that, shift in and shift out, and you're different in an NHL that is, a bit smaller, right, Trevor? Like, DPD is an outlier, and the fact that he's only 21 years old this time around, if I'm correct, or is he only 20? Like, man, oh man, this is the guy that you probably at the end of this season, before his new right now deal expires, that would be next year, I guess. Actually, no, it'd probably expire this year if I'm correct. You probably got to extend this guy, man. This guy could be really, really good.
Yeah, I agree. Adam Foote's an interesting one. Just kind of looking at his stats right now. His first full season with the Quebec Nordiques in a higher scoring era, before scoring kind of dropped off 92, 93, was 4 goals, 16 points in 81 games. It wasn't really until his 30s where he started hitting some higher point totals. 27 points in 55 games in 01-02, and then 11 goals, 31 points in 78 games in 02-03. But for the most part, with Adam Foote, just a really rock solid defensive defenseman that kind of gave you around 20 points, right? I think there's more to give here with Elias Pettersson, just based on his skating, making smart plays in the offensive zone. We saw, again, that smart play, the prospect tournament. And again, like I mentioned, the Canucks were unlucky not to score more with DPD on the ice last season. I think there's a bigger offensive game here. There was one comparable that I mentioned recently that I found very interesting. And, maybe size-wise, they're not super similar, but Nicholas Kronwall. Nicholas Kronwall, again, a couple inches shorter than DPD. But one of those players who, not a crazy prolific offensive defenseman, but, put up some big numbers in some seasons. He hit 50 points once in 08-09. So I don't necessarily maybe see DPD at that level, but for the most part, Nicholas Kronwall, it's kind of around 30, 35 points and just a physical piece of shit. Yeah. Always laying the huge body hits, the ones that you can YouTube them now if you're a young buck and you don't know Nick Kronwall. But I can see DPD having the same kind of physical impact, the same kind of defensive impact, maybe not the same kind of offensive impact, but maybe something closer to that than Adam Foote.
Man, oh man, speaking of comps, here's another one, man. The comments are on fire today, man. Did I lose it? I might have lost it, but somebody said Matthias Ohlund. And doesn't that make you think? Look at Calder Kid Petey just producing the whole show today, saying Matthias Ohlund, that's DPD. And ideally, I think if you want to, put a cap to this conversation, there's a small chance or a good chance, a really great chance that DPD is the perfect 3-4 defenseman for this team moving forward. And when I say perfect, huge emphasis on that. Because realistically, you don't need, obviously you'd love to have another Quinn Hughes. Don't get me wrong. But it's just so hard to do that, right? And maybe you don't need another Filip Hronek, another 40 to 50 point guy with that type of skill set. If you have a defensive stalwart that is physical and big, again, Josh Manson, we've seen teams win like that. Having guys like that. And Matthias Ohlund, I know we didn't win with him, and I don't think he ever won. I don't even think he made it past the second round once. But, hey, the Swedish connection, again, I think we're in for a surprise when it comes to the growth of DPD and maybe Tom Olander too, based on who's in the system, Marcus Pettersson, Adam Foote, Quinn Hughes, and all in all, like, is there a 51% chance that DPD is a top 4 defenseman this year? I'm gonna say yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. He's gonna have to knock off, I guess, Tyler Myers, right? Like Marcus Pettersson, Quinn
Easy.
Hughes, Philip Hronik, but he's got to play on his offside. I think that's the other element to the equation there. Look, I certainly think it's possible. I think that would be a welcome sight for the Vancouver Canucks. Not just fans would love it, but for the Vancouver Canucks as well. For one of your 21-year-old defensemen, he did turn 21 back on in February this year. For your 21-year-old defenseman to supplant a guy on the right side while playing on his offside, I mean, that would be a huge bonus for the Vancouver Canucks. Now, maybe let's dovetail on Tom Lander for a second. And I guess my first question, Kyle, is I think it's pretty obvious DPD is making the opening night roster. That was, I don't really think, ever in question. I was asked, and for one of my Daily Hive articles I wrote, like, do you really think like DPD is a lot to make this team? I'm like, I'd be shocked if he didn't make this team. He's making this team. But what about Tom Lander? Like, does it make sense for both DPD and Willander to make this team, considering that one of them is likely a healthy scratch? Or you have two rookies playing in your defense? Like, if you're the Canucks right now, Colin, it might be too soon to answer because we haven't gotten to camp, but like, how you gauging this situation, at the moment?
I'm gauging it based on your outlook on Tom Olander, right? Because I didn't watch much of the prospect games over the weekend. Why? Because I was hanging out with my friends. I'm not taking a shot.
You're saying I don't have friends. I go.
No, I barely hang out with my friends. Like, I saw some old school friends, and one of my friends got engaged. Went to an engagement party. I actually also went to a friend's house on Friday who I haven't hung out with in 20 plus years. Like, he was a neighborhood friend who, like, loves the Canucks, and we had some good talks about it. But all in all, didn't watch the prospect tournament, but I talked to you, and even when you hear like guys like Harmon or Halford, or again, Trevor Beggs, just hear Trevor Beggs talk about Tom Olander, and he can skate. He looks beautiful skating. Like, he looks elite, when he's doing his thing with the puck on his stick and skating around. But other than that, it seems as if he needs some time. So to answer your question, it's like, no, go play and in the AHL. And Trevor, like, people think about how much time we just spent talking about DP. Again, look at what he did last training camp in the preseason. He looked bad. Like, he looked lost. Like, maybe he looked good during the practice drills when the preseason was happening. Like, it was too much for him. And I'm surprised that he got it this quick. I really am. But hey, with that being said, that could be the same thing with Tom Olander. Like, a bit more seasoning, not a couple more years. This is not going to be Ola Ulevi all over again. But it's not the worst thing in the world for this guy to be in the AHL. Now, Trevor, I guarantee that's probably your answer too. I want to ask you this, like, because I keep hearing it. Again, keep stealing Drance's like talking points. But bro, why do you think like the Canucks are so desperate to have Willander in the lineup ASAP?
That's a great question. It kind of goes back to this team's mantra of selling tickets and making the playoffs rather than necessarily winning the cup, right? Like that's exactly what it feels like. Let's get our top prospect in the lineup. This big contract stalemate. We got him here. He's he was an 11th overall pick. Let's get him in the lineup, baby. But to your point, it might not be the best thing for him right now. And I do think training camp and preseason will be telling. I will say that from watching the games this weekend, you saw some stuff online about like, oh yeah, he looks lost. He doesn't look ready. Like, he got beat on a goal by Berkeley Cadden, who was arguably the best player in that entire tournament. I would say probably the best player entering the tournament as well. Like, he's a really slick prospect out of the WHL there. Well, just because he got beat on that play by the top guy in this tournament, it to me isn't just like, oh, he doesn't know how to play. He didn't necessarily stand out and wow you. He wowed me with his skating on a few occasions, but he didn't look like he necessarily stood atop of the competition. And, to be honest, look, I mean, DPD played 28 NHL games last year. He played another 30 games in the AHL. Tom Willander has yet to play a pro hockey game in the AHL or NHL. So, yeah, he's highly touted. And, I brought up some comms recently for Daily Hive that suggest this guy could have an impact in year one. but I need to see more in camp in the preseason first. Like, just based on what happened this weekend, I'd be sticking him in the AHL because, Kyle, I do think it's a tough thing to have two rookie defensemen in the lineup, even though they're pretty insulated on this team. You still have to split up pairs, have one guy kind of in your top four. Derek Forbort deserves a spot in the lineup just based on his penalty killing heroics last year. So for now, I think Willander's actually maybe more on the outside looking in, heading into training camp, whereas kind of before this prospect showcase, I was thinking that he had a pretty strong case for making this team, which he still might. It's early days, but just kind of a quick reaction based on what I saw this weekend. Okay, Kyle, let's cut to break here. On the other side, we'll wrap up with a few of your comments and a few more of our thoughts from the prospect showcase. You're listening to Locked On Canucks. Let's shout out our friends over at FanDuel. And a lot of favorites winning this weekend in the NFL. In my pick and pool, I went 12-2. I also picked the New Orleans Saints. Whoops, that was my bad. Hate the San Francisco 49ers, but Mac Jones, he proved me wrong, man.
Okay.
Whatever bets you're placing, you got to go do it on FanDuel. NFL season is here. Hockey season also around the corner. The Canucks playoff odds, they're creeping up on FanDuel. It was about a plus 115. They're now up to plus 105 to make.
Why are you surprised? Why are you surprised? Everyone kept saying, if Elias Pettersson steps it up, the Canucks are going to be fine. And we've been talking about it for 25 minutes, okay? Elias Pettersson is legit.
Yeah, he is legit. And, I did have a conversation this morning with Jay Fresh where the recording for Zoom did not work. Whoops, my bad. But, that's just me being old, not knowing how to use technology. But he was very bullish on the Canucks making the playoffs. So that should hopefully make Canuck fans feel better. And maybe it'll make you feel better about placing a bet on their playoff odds on FanDuel. Again, plus 105 to make the playoffs. So you can, double your money with a shade over that by placing the bet on FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So are you ready to play? Go download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet today.
Boom, bam, boom, bam. People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. Kyle Bowden, Trevor Beggs. One love to the Don't Doze Art Lab for giving us a space to give you that West Coast bias. And Trevor doesn't have the shirt off. It's September 15th. Or doesn't have the shirt on, my bad. Yeah, what's going on? Like, I know you're entering the showbiz in this week. Training camp opens. You're in the circuit. You're in the media circuit, and what is this? Sex sells or what? What are you doing here today? It's not July 14th, buddy.
Man, it's 2025. Are you allowed to ask about my wardrobe? Just kidding me, man. You can ask me anything. To be honest, I went for a run and then I haven't showered and I'm all sticky. And I didn't really want to put another shirt on before showering.
Trevor, it's okay, man. I understand show business, buddy. I understand the world you're getting into, and all I want to say is don't change, bro. Okay, let us know in the comments right now, the live chat. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, yeah, he's going to change completely. Do you think Trevor's going to change? Okay, 5 to 10 more minutes left in this episode. Let's find out what the people think. Because Trevor, I'm begging you not to change. Speaking of which, I know we got some Canucks stuff to talk about. I do want to talk about Victor Valentino Martini Mancini, who didn't play at the prospect tournament because he's 23 years old. But it's crazy how, we're kind of forgetting about him. And it's okay if this guy's a one-up on Tom Willander. That being said, Trevor, keep saying it, man. I don't want you to change. Just said it 20 seconds ago. And, we got this comment. I will press the button and we'll read it. And it broke my heart. And that's mainly because you didn't check up on me, okay? This comment comes from Nunya44288, okay? He's saying, what is up with your voice, Kyle? Did Locked On hire you because of DEI? Now, what does DEI stand for again? I think it's like diversity, employment, indeed hire, I think, okay?
I think it's diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I'll be damned.
Basically saying, the only reason I got to be Trevor's friend is because I'm brown. And the only reason I'm able to upload a video on YouTube is because I'm brown, because my voice sounds like SpongeBob that made love with Eric Cartman. Everyone made love with Eric Cartman's mom, but that's basically what he's saying. And Trevor, you get the comment notifications too. You never called me, man. You never called up to check up on me, and I get it. Show business, Mr. Media over there. But Trevor, just want to let you know, man, I'm your friend, not your colleague, okay?
Honestly, man, I let you down. I really did. Sometimes I get a little disconnected on the weekends. Not to make excuses here for my lack of friendship. Again, maybe we're becoming more coworkers than friends here. But Nunya 125465. Your opinions, man. No one cares, man. None of your business. Okay, I'll throw down with you any day. Okay, man. They say respect your fans. I don't give a shit, man. Let's go.
There you go, Trevor. That's what I like to hear. And Andrew's saying there's a 97% chance that Trevor is going to change because you're going to be too good for us. So Trevor, got work to do, but that energy you just showed 5 seconds ago, that's what the people at Locked On Canucks need, okay? They need to know that you're going to have our back and you're not just going to enter show business and forget about us, okay? Speaking of forgetting, are we forgetting about Valentino Martini III, okay? Because again, people are like, oh yeah, we need Tom Willander, right-handed defenseman to make the club. Boom, bam, right? That's going to make us so much deeper. Imagine our decor of DPD and Tom Willander and Myers and Marcus Pettersson and Hronek and Hughes. I think, we're not trying to forget about Derek Forbert, but that's kind of the reason why this organization probably wants to sell us on Tom Willander, because that's a dream top six. That is. That's effing beautiful. That being said, I mean, there's a world where Victor Martini Mancini III is a first-round talent. He's only 23 years old, and based on what I've seen, I trust that guy to give us quality this season, and maybe he makes the club ASAP. And, there's a rotation between him, Forbert, and DPD, and, he makes it, I don't know, interesting to say the least, because there might be a world where it's like, I don't know, DPD and Mancini playing together, right? Or is it Mancini and Marcus Pettersson playing together and it looking good?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We are kind of forgetting about him a little bit because he wasn't in this tournament. Tom Willander is now signed by this organization. Victor Mancini was one of the best players in Abbotsford last year. I mean, the guy was freaking electric out there. And not just like the flashy stuff where he's dancing up the ice with the puck on his stick and making plays, but, playing on the top pairing with Guillaume Brisebois, the first guy off the boards in the penalty kill. Yeah, I mean, he's certainly got a crack in making this team, right? And I think we'll get into training camp battles later this week, but there's a really interesting one shaping up to me. Maybe not so much between DP. No, I'll include DPD in the mix. So like DPD, Willander, and Mancini. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But you got three pretty tantalizing young defensemen there who could all theoretically be competing for one spot, maybe two.
Yeah, and before you talk about some of the other prospects that you were high on or maybe low on based on this weekend's events, like, am I on the strongest weed ever if I'm saying like, yo, Mancini to me looks like a first round talent?
Woo!
Like,
Damn.
he's got that pedigree. I mean, he's not a fifth round talent. Like, is there a world where Mancini's as good as DPD? Like, I wouldn't even throw that out the equation. Like, Mancini did his thing last year for us, and with the Abbotsford Canucks as well.
Yeah, it would have been fascinating to have DPD down in Abbotsford to see like how they would have compared against each other in the playoffs. Obviously, that wasn't the case due to the constraints of the Canucks to send guys back down. But yeah, I mean, he's a very intriguing player. I mean, right now, I kind of feel like DPD, like as of right now, a lot can change. I can't wait for camp this week. I can't wait to be there in Penticton, boots on the ground for Locked On Canucks. I can't wait to see what these guys look like. Because right now, to me, it's DPD's in. Maybe P.O. Joseph is your seventh defenseman, and Willander and Mancini are down in Abbotsford. Which there's room for another one of these guys to make it, right?
P.O. Joseph stands for peace out, Joseph. You got no chance.
But the Canucks don't want these young guys sitting in the press box either, right? I mean, that's the double-edged sword. Like, Willander and Mancini, they're better players than Pierre-Olivier Joseph, but you can't just have them sit in the press box, right? But like right now, let's say, Willander and Mancini go back to the farm, like you're looking at a top six in Abbotsford of, let's call it a first pairing of like Tom Willander and Guillaume Brisebois. Maybe second pairing is Kirill Kudryavtsev, Victor Mancini. Third pairing is like a Sawyer Minio and a Jet Wu. So it's like, you got a pretty good defense out there in Abbotsford. That's not including Jimmy Schultz, man. Remember we talked about that guy, captain of the San Jose Barracuda last year, not even making the lineup. So look, there's room for another guy from Abbotsford to make it up to the big club. It's just a matter of, can the Canucks find spots for these guys in the lineup?
Yeah, there's this is a good problem to have, and I always said it, man. When you have a strong D, it's the best problem to have, man. So yeah, man, best of luck to all these guys. Can't wait for training camp. And Trevor, before we leave today, and maybe you can let us know in the comments too. Like, I don't know, did any forwards stand out? Because I'm not hearing the best out of Jonathan Lecker-Mackey. Again, 2-game sample size in Everett. Like I'm more curious to see how Lecker-Mackey looks this week as opposed to what he did this weekend. But all in all, like, who else stood out for you?
Yeah, Lecker-Mackey was interesting because he scored a goal and he makes great plays in tight spaces, but he just seemed to get checked a lot. Like he wasn't just like deking around guys. He still looks like he's trying to be too cute out there. That was kind of one of my takeaways from the weekend. Riley Pettersson, nothing super flashy, a little undersized, but I thought he did a good job of stepping up into Braden Coots' spot there on the top line in the second game. The Canucks in general just played more structured. Kier Durbin really stood out to me in the first game. Just the raw tools are there. He's not necessarily the biggest guy, but he's got speed. He can make some plays. He also lost his guy on 2 goals. So a raw player, but an interesting skill set for that guy. Gabe Schrott stood out to me as well. Scores a goal in the second game. On defense, I thought Kirill Kudryavtsev, Sawyer Minio had some good moments, had some not so good moments. But for me, the goaltending was the other big takeaway too. I know I mentioned Vilmer Ulrichsen and DPD, of course, earlier on. But Alexei Medvedev, the Canucks hung him out to dry a lot more in that game than they hung out Aku Koskin-Vuo in the second game. But Alexei Medvedev, to me, for being 5 days away from being eligible for the 2026 draft, one of the youngest guys there, great stats in the OHL last year. He was swimming around a little bit, but just making some athletic, acrobatic saves. He really looks like an intriguing prospect to me, probably a top 5 prospect in the Canucks system right now. And a shout out to Aku Koskin-Vuo. I might be butchering that name, to be honest, but who knows? He played well. I don't think he had to make as many crazy saves as Medvedev did, but nice to see 2 Canuck goaltenders put in some good performances down there.
That's beautiful, man. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for watching Canucks.com over the weekend. I appreciate that.
With no audio or anything.
If you're mad at me for not watching the prospect tournament, don't be, because, like I said, man, I barely spent quality time with my friends. So I had to do what I had to do, and I will add this little spiel before we get out of here. The homies that I hung out with on Friday, again, they're my neighborhood homies, 91A in Surrey. Didn't go to high school with them. I went to elementary school with one of them, but he was older than me, so we didn't really hang out in elementary school. But again, we played street hockey every day for 3 years. Every day for 3 years, drank out of hose water, and ultimately fell in love with the Canucks because Morrison, Bertuzzi, Naslin. It was too easy to do so. And I was hanging out with one of them. Shout out to my homie PJ. And man, he's the biggest Canucks fan ever, and he's optimistic, man. He's optimistic. And I'm like, yo, this guy's the biggest Canucks fan ever. How is he so optimistic? And I know why. Because he doesn't spend as much time as I do on Twitter. So I quit. If you, I just want to talk to people on Discord. Okay, that's it. Link in the bio. F all this negativity. Puck all this negativity. Canucks have the best D in the league. If DPD takes the next step legitimately, the Canucks for sure will have the best D. He's going to be the biggest surprise young player in hockey. Okay, it happened once for us not that long ago with Alex Edler, right? They're comparing this guy to a poor Nicholas Lidstrom. Okay, maybe we got the next Nicholas Cronwell here. Okay, if that happens, the Canucks have strong D, strong goaltending, and if Elias Pettersson can bring his game to the next level. The irony in that is, maybe Elias Pettersson follows suit. Okay, honestly, this is your Vancouver Canucks. Maybe history is made. A lot of weird things happening with this team, but I mean, it doesn't get weirder than that. Elias Pettersson being impactful on this team. Trevor, come on, something's got to give. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to Elias Petterssons is something else, and I know what you mean, man. I mean, the Discord's a good place to be. I've started to hop in more now that I've
Yeah.
broken away from the day job. I'm in the Canucks more full time, and I'm like, gotta respect the people in the Discord. We're gonna start a fantasy hockey league for Locked On Canucks here. If you want to join, go join the Discord. Info will be in there. And speaking of the D, man, the Canucks, they absolutely got the best D in the NHL. I mean, if this defense was a proverbial penis, you'd have to wrap it up.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.